What's up, guys? I got around to replacing the struts on my S110p Daihatsu Hijet mini truck. I had a hard time finding the right struts. There were some KYB aftermarkets that are in the UK, but I couldn't get them shipped here. And then some people wanted like $600 for 2 struts for this little tiny truck, which is highway robbery. Pretty frustrated with all the people that are trying to make a fortune on these baby trucks by marking up parts and selling these trucks themselves for 3 times what they're worth. So I found some cheapos on eBay off of an older model and made them work. Link in the description. Hope this is helpful. If you need more stuff like this, check out the Patreon page. Alright guys, I got my cheapo $100 a piece replacements for my S110p. These are off of a S83 or an older model. You can tell by the way the clip is. These are not the KYBs. I couldn't find them. These are some just generic eBay ones. They were, I don't know what name brand, but they were much cheaper than everyone who's trying to price gouge us and charge a stupid amount of money for these parts. The length is about the same. The shock body's a little smaller. Shaft diameter is the same. But the real problem here is the spacing between the holes. These holes are a little too close together. So I got to open them up, and I'm going to try to spread them out when I do that with a burr. And I'm going to do that, and I did that anyways because I needed to adjust my camber some more. So opening these holes gives you a little wiggle room to play with your camber. The brake line bracket's obviously different. All you got to do is drill a hole here, lop off these right there, and put a bolt and nut. That's really simple. The hard part's going to be making this line up on the knuckle. But you know, it was $100 a piece versus $250, $300 a piece. So obviously I was going to give it a shot. It did have some extra tabs. It has a tab here that you don't need, and it has a tab there that I already snapped off that you don't need. This is what that other tab looked like. Here's the other side. Yeah, so I snapped that off. You could snap this one off if you wanted to. But main modification, it looks like, is going to be these bolt holes. So I'll show you what that looks like once I get them done. But these are, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch closer together than the ones that came on my truck. But one of my struts is totally blown and just leaking fluid everywhere and is starting to fail in all kinds of ways internally. This thing is very oily and it's making some bad noises. So I wanted to upgrade them. So didn't want to break the bank because, you know, this is a budget truck. I didn't want to put $600 of suspension on a $4,000 truck. All right, as you can see, I opened the holes up a lot. I also did some grinding on that back bracket. The reason for that was I wanted some more camber adjustment, and getting some clearance there gave that to me. I could have also conversely ground on the back of the knuckle. However, the knuckle's nice and thick. This is off the car, so it's easier to grind this. Give you an idea how much I opened up these holes. Pretty big. I just used a step drill, but obviously the holes fit a little loose now, which is what I wanted because I have some camber adjustment. I'm going to install with bigger bolts and big washers to make it just as strong. Now I'm going to reassemble the strut, drill a hole right there, put a bolt and nut for the brake line, and yeah, that's about it. All right, so I got some washers on there to help distribute the load because I had to cut it out a little bit. Feels pretty solid. Clearing the CV boot just fine, probably better than the other one because it's a little smaller diameter. There's the brake line bolted and nutted onto the tab. As you can see, the first hole I drilled was too high. You need to drill a hole a little towards the bottom of that bracket. And the brake line's nice and mounted like factory. My springs I'm using are a little smaller diameter than factory, so I had to kind of fold these tabs in to keep the spring centered properly. You can see where I tapped with the hammer. And then up here, I've got all this positioned to where it's giving me the most amount of camber correction possible for my lift kit. So it's folded back away from me as far as possible. Yeah, this is the real bad one. See how oily it is? Also, on these old struts, I had to do a bunch of grinding at the bottom of the strut to clear my CV axle on the passenger side with a lift. This one clears no problem because the strut's a little different design. It's a little smaller. But yeah, so it's all on there. I think it's going to be just fine. Ride height changed very slightly, like maybe 1/4 of an inch higher. Once I drilled the bolt holes out and had to shift everything around, and I got my, you can see how the knuckle's positioned right now. Trying to lean it in as much as possible to get my camber back from my lift kit, which leaned it out. So you can kind of see how it's sitting there. But I got nice big washers on it. It's real tight. These aftermarket struts do not seem quite as heavy duty as the OEM ones. Maybe that's because they're from the wrong model. Maybe that's because they're aftermarket. In any case, it's a super light, tiny baby truck. I think it'll be just fine. And if this works out, I save myself $350, $400. So proceed at your own risk. Obviously, doing anything like this, driving on the road is dangerous. Some of us care more than others.